Welcome back to another video where we dive into the complexities of family dynamics and interracial relationships. Today, we're delving into a riveting story about a professional chef who stood up against racial remarks from his sister-in-law. Let's unfold this family feud. For context, I've been married to my wife for 10 years and we're a mixed-race couple. I'm Asian and she's Caucasian. I've gotten along with her family, Emil, Bail, Sile, but I always felt like her father-in-law and other Sarah never liked me. I'm a professionally trained chef with 15 plus years of experience, and I work at a high-end Chinese restaurant, a spin-off of a popular one in Beijing, in a large US city. My crew and I have won several awards, and I've been explicitly told I'll be the next executive chef. Sarah is also a professionally trained chef and works at a popular upscale French restaurant in the city. She constantly brags about it and, no joke, compares herself out loud to Ramsay and Bourdain. Whenever I'm at my mother-in-law and File's house and helping out in the kitchen, Sarah is always criticizing everything I do. Whether it's chopping, braising, marinating, etc., she always butts in with comments like, I think you should actually do X like this. I've been patient for my wife and sidestepping those comments, saying things like, thanks, but I think I'll stick to the way I do it. Things came to a head 2 weeks ago when my wife, Phil, Mill, and I were in her parents' kitchen prepping dinner for my Emil's birthday. We were running a bit behind, so things were heated, which I kind of liked because it reminded me of work. And that's when Sarah walked in. She took one look at what I was doing, scoffed, and said something like, "Oh wow, okay, so that's not the right way of doing things." It hit a nerve, and I pretty sternly told her to stop criticizing my cooking and that I'm also a chef like her. She laughed and said, "Making kung pao chicken at some Chinese restaurant doesn't count." The kitchen went silent. Father-in-law snorted, chuckled, and my mother-in-law yelled, "Sarah, what is wrong with you?" I stopped what I was doing, swore at her, and called her a racist piece of shit, apologized to my mother-in-law for not being able to stay, and left for home with my wife. Apparently, this caused a massive fight after we left, with my Mimiel, Bill, other Sil taking my side, and my Phil, Ari Sarah saying it was a joke, but kind of true, and that I was being too sensitive. The extended family somehow got wind of this, and now everyone is arguing and taking sides, with my wife even getting texts from some her cousins apologizing for Sarah's behavior. Despite being on my side, my wife is begging me to apologize so that the fighting will stop, but I refuse to because fuck Sarah and her blatant racism. Am I the asshole? My wife got a call from Sil, from wife's paraphrasing. Sarah started screaming/crying at her the moment my wife picked up and said that she just got demoted because of her Asian slur husband. Apparently some of her co-workers have her on FB and showed the post to management, which combined with her earlier rant, double whammied her back to being a line cook, and now she might get fired. My wife told her to go fuck herself, and is now solidly on my side after taking the verbal abuse from Sarah and reading some of the comments here. My wife is still the opposite of happy though. Wife called mother-in-law and asked her WTF was going on with Phil. Mother-in-law was confused, so my wife played back the voicemail I had on my phone, and apparently my mother-in-law literally just walked away from the phone without hanging up and started screaming at Phil. Facebook post has now devolved into a clusterfuck flame war with family and friends jumping in. Suffice to say, it has officially gone nuclear. Me right now. I think I'm gonna have to call this a day. We'll make an update post when the dust settles. Thanks again, folks. Turns out I'm not allowed to post an update post for some reason. No, you provided all your updates in the original post with your many edits. You can edit this in, but we will not be allowing a standalone update on this. I'd like to clarify that I got my wife and Memile's permissions to post this update, out respect for them and their privacy. Suffice to say, it's been kind of nuts this past week. My wife and I had to turn off social media for a bit because of the shitstorm caused by her cousin putting my last post on Sarah's Facebook page. Some people even tried to call the restaurant I work at to get me fired as retribution, but luckily everyone there is 100% on my side. Or as my boss put it, fuck Sarah, fuck those racists, fuck them so goddamn much. I guess it didn't help them that half the calls involved threats, screaming, and more racial slurs. We didn't hear any updates from her family, even though we assumed the shit met fan after mother-in-law found out about File's threatening voicemail. Still disappointed in you, Doug. But that changed on Sunday night, when mother-in-law suddenly showed up at our door with overnight bags. After we took a moment to help unpack and calm down, she spilled the beans on everything. Father-in-law, aka Doug, apparently my mother-in-law and father-in-law were already having trouble in their marriage, and it was only made worse with a certain 2016 presidential election. She's a Dem, and he had apparently gone more far-right since then. Seems that a line was crossed with the Kung Pao incident and his voicemail. When he refused to apologize for anything, typical Doug, she asked for a divorce and he went berserk. She didn't feel safe there, so that's when she came over. Other brother-in-law and SEL live out of town. Extended family, aka the Great FB War of 2021. You may have been able to tell already, but the extended family was largely arguing, fighting, / divided along political lines for a few years now, and my cousin's FB post was likely just the light to set off the powder keg. According to my MIL, the fallout has allegedly already led to some breakups, excommunication of some family members, and even an argument that ended with police involvement. Haven't verified this myself though. Sarah/Sael. According to my MIL, Sarah came over to her place on Friday. The writing was on the wall, and she was basically forced to quit. Despite her trying to start from scratch as a line cook, the entire staff turned against her. Nothing was coming back from the pit for her, and she was getting the cold shoulder. She's a great chef. I will admit this is true, but they took no chances since it turns out, shit you not. They're partly owned by a Chinese investment company. Found this hard to believe and didn't want to add this detail, but it turned out to be true after some research. Won't say any further for privacy. Word also got around in the local industry, and Sarah is essentially blacklisted from high-end establishments. She's now considering selling her home and moving to find work. As much as I don't like her and found her behavior horrifying, I didn't intend for this to happen, so I've reached out to some buds in other states to see if they had any openings. Whether or not she wants to take it is up to her, and no, she has not apologized for anything either, but I still want to be a decent person to her. It sure as hell doesn't feel like a happy ending. Perhaps bittersweet justice, but that's all I can give you. Thank you all for your support and for reading. Still me right now. And that wraps up our deep dive into a heated familial debate that spiraled into an epic saga of cultural clashes and workplace consequences. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the discussion, and we'll be back with more thought-provoking stories next time.